Welcome to the Bougie Baldie Podcast with your host, Kellie Rhymes.
Society promotes beautiful long hair. They promote that as beauty. And because society promotes that as beauty, many women out here feel like if they don't have this long, beautiful hair, they're ugly. And that is far from the truth. Oh, I see you cut your hair. And I'm like, yeah. But then she's like, but don't you want to just leave a little bit of hair? Once again, did you ask me what was going on? Why I cut my hair? And so out of respect, because she was an older lady, in my mind, I wanted to say, do you know me like that? Like, you don't know me like that, right?
Yeah. I just feel like we have reached a pinnacle in society where there is a lack of respect for people that are different than you. Yeah. And I think it becomes a broader conversation that we need to have because everybody is different and we all have the right to be different.
Yes.
A lot of times when people approach us in a negative manner, it's because of a character defect or flaw that they have in their personality.
Mm-hmm. I think that
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Bougie Baldie Podcast. My name is Kellie. I am a women's hair loss support and authenticity coach, and I help women go from that insecure state to that confident state, help them through their hair loss journey, whether they may be stuck, whether they may be feeling down.
body, and I would always go outside with extra clothes, and the brush and the comb was fixing her hair. But one day her hair was like disheveled, and I said, "Let me just cut it a little." At the age of 5, and I gave her first haircut, and from that point on, just to hear the hair being cut on the scissors, I was like, this is what I want to do. So fast forward, my early teens, I always would go into hair. My family had a hair salon in Providence, Rhode Island, with the whole entire family worked there, and that is exactly where I had my first job, as being a shampoo assistant and the front desk person. So with all those years of just being around hair, I fell in love. During that time, we didn't really understand what alopecia was about, right?
Right.
So I was battling with alopecia, with little small spots in the middle of my head and around the hairline. And I would use mascara to camouflage it because my hair was darker at the time. And I would use clip-ins to camouflage it. Later on in life, when I got into hair cosmetology school, that is when I found out about alopecia. So I went to a dermatologist, and that's when they told me that I had alopecia. And from that moment on, I felt very insecure. I felt isolated, and I didn't want to live my life like that. So I made it my duty and my passion to focus on creating a holistic approach, whether it was non-surgical, beauty, aesthetics, or just feeling how you could feel beautiful with hair loss. So that's exactly how I evolved into the industry I am now.
Okay. Now, do you know what type of alopecia you actually have? I'm sure you do, but what type of alopecia do you have?
Mine was stress-induced alopecia.
Okay.
And then it was also traction. I started as traction alopecia, with the tight ponytails, the tight braids, and things of that nature. Then from that point on, it started going to the point I did not know that I was allergic to the canker line with the braiding hair.
Okay.
With the chemical in that was actually I was allergic to, so it make my scalp inflamed. I just thought it was fine. I kept patting it, and then what happened was it was attacking my hair follicles, and it spread the process from the traction alopecia to alopecia to the point I'm in the mid of it.
Okay.
So it's traction alopecia and alopecia areata, and there's certain products I can't use because it would cause inflammation to my scalp, and it's over.
Yes. And that's the one thing that so many people don't realize. I mean, I didn't know that different products can cause inflammation, and inflammation is what causes your hair to come out. I mean, but we didn't know. We don't know what we don't know. But that's why we have podcasts like this and talk to people like you so that people are aware of this. And even that braiding hair, because within the last 2 years it has come out that braiding hair is toxic. So for you to have that experience before we even knew about it.
And I think back then, we would take the rat tail comb and it would just tell you to scratch your scalp. All along it was my body saying, hey, there's something wrong, right? And we weren't educated enough to know that what we were doing was self-inflicted pain on ourselves, trying to fit the beauty standard what the world creates now.
Yes, exactly. Now, your path, it hasn't been the traditional path, and that's really inspiring. I would say that because before becoming a leader in hair replacement, you were doing. Okay, let me kind of phrase this another way. Before becoming a leader in hair replacement, what were you doing, and how did those earlier experiences shape the businesswoman and advocate that you are today?
Okay, so before I became a hair expert, I always was in the medical field, and I was always combining beauty and medical some way or another. So I started out in labor and delivery as a labor and delivery nurse. Back in the day, I was a medical assistant, a surgical assistant. Being a surgical assistant, I worked in labor and delivery. So hand in hand, I still was here, the conversations that were going with their hair, trying to get their body back, from just having a baby. So after many years of feeling like that was a great call, I still felt like I was missing something. So even though I was helping deliver the babies, I was always finding my way of trying to fix their hair or helping them do something with their hair or their, overall feeling beautiful. So I end up getting fired. And so getting fired from that job at labor and delivery, because I think what happened was they were like, you're here to help with the babies, not try to fix mom's hair. So to me, it was a blessing in disguise. And I ended up getting a call to come over to a friend's job. They was working at medical hair restoration at the time, which was a hair restoration clinic that did surgical hair replacement. I didn't believe that it worked, but I went anyway. And when I went, I fell in love instantly because I was seeing that someone's life was being changed dramatically through hair loss and hair restoration. So from that point on, they offered me a job on the spot. I declined it right then and there, but then I called them back a few days later after prayer and sitting thinking how I could marry them all together. So
Okay.
I started at medical hair restoration in 1999. And then it wasn't a traditional, like I said. So I stopped. I went to cosmetology school. Then I went back and went to trichology. Then I focused on more of hair systems. The hair systems were where I was doing cranial prostheses, and that helped. But I still had my client base for hair restoration. And then I met the owner of SmartGraft, Mr.
Okay.
Rogers. And when I met him, it was like heaven sent. So he was like, with all the skills that you have, maybe you should come to my company. And I never looked back. So I went and I fell madly in love with SmartGraft. So it's either I'm doing hair transplant or I'm helping you create a cranial prostheses, or we're figuring out how to get your gut health together and help you feel beautiful from the inside out.
Cool. Okay. We're going to pause right there.
Okay.
I'm going to pause the recording because question. All right. Here we go. And this is why we have editing. So if you ever make a mistake or say something you don't want to say, just say edit out and we make sure we take it on out. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So you talked about cranial prosthesis.
Yes.
So do you guys, you make it from scratch or do you order it and then customize it? How do you handle that with your clients?
All of the above. We customize them, we order them, and we make them hand by. I make them personally by scratch by hand.
Really? Okay. I know that that's a tedious thing, but I know they come out beautiful. When I see people make wigs, I'm like, how long does that take you to make?
It takes some time. So, it's funny you asked that question. I was on a call yesterday putting together, we're having a conference for 2026, and we started talking about the cranial prostheses. And for me, it's very therapeutic because you get to know that person more in depth. You have to send them out, some forms. They have to do the measurements, and then they have to send photos of what their dream look is. So then you're able to now custom. So you're going strand by strand. I tell people all the time, making customized cranial prostheses is patience. It would teach you patience.
Yes, you have to, because tying all that hair, each individual strand. Yeah, that's a lot. I don't think I could do it. Matter of fact, I know I could not do it. Okay. So, hold on, give me a second. All right. Now let's go into your business, because you're not just running a business, you have a whole mission to transform how the industry approaches hair loss solutions. So what specific gaps or problems did you see in the hair replacement world that Hair Tech Blueprint, which is a program you created, how does it address that?
So I felt like there was 3 major gaps. One was there was no proper education for beauty professionals wanting to enter the hair loss field. There was no standard training or safety protocols for new hair technicians. And then also, too, trying to find, there was very little representation for women of color in hair restoration. Having that right hand glove service. If someone, let's say, who's going through alopecia, you go to the doctor and you look, I have some problems, and they tell you have CCCA. Well, what is CCCA? How do I work with that? And so I wanted to make sure that the Hair Tech Blueprint, there was a blueprint for every avenue when it came to losing your hair. If you were ready for surgery, here's your protocol, here's your step, here's your guide. If you want someone to hold your hand and help you find the right physician, what questions he asks, X, Y, and Z, how to prepare you, there's a service for that under the Hair Tech Blueprint. If you're alopecia and you're wanting to transition from your hair wig to rocking now your bald and beautiful bald head, how do you do that? Here's the steps, your confidence. So I felt like there was a major gap. So that is why I created the Hair Tech Blueprint. It's a community changing the lens of what it looks like for hair restoration, from the hair loss, non-surgical to surgical component.
Okay. So people, I like that, because everybody does not want to go the surgical route, So the fact that you are including everybody, different decisions, and just knowing that, hey, and this is the same thing I promote, like whatever you want to do to make you feel good and feel confident, that's what you do. So to have it laid out for somebody makes it so much easier, because again, like I talked about earlier, sometimes we get stuck. We just like, our hair is coming out. We done tried this, we tried that, and this is not working. And then it comes to the point where you're like, okay, I just don't know what to do. I'm done, So getting people out of that stuck place, this blueprint is perfect for that, right?
Exactly.
You also have a blog, and your blog is called LatiquaWilliams.com. That's where everybody can go out there and check out
Yes.
her blog. And you share some powerful insights about entrepreneurship, the hair industry, and personal growth as well. So, what message are you most passionate about getting out to your readers, especially women of color, to navigate this industry?
You can build a beauty business out of a box, even if you don't have the blueprint. And that is why I created the Hair Tech Blueprint, because there's a community that you can go over to find. But when it comes to business, I wanted to teach women from that blog that no matter what, I know what it feels like to be in the beauty industry and don't have any type of experience of where do I go after hair school, right? I know what it is to have a gift where I've never went to hair school, a person who's never went to hair school, and they just have a gift of doing someone's hair. How do you navigate that way? So the blog was like getting more personal, talking about my experience of how I had my sons and I didn't have the means. So I used my gift of doing hair to help me start my business to get to $500 to get all the documentations to build the business. And I built that business on a shoestring budget, all sitting on public assistance, right? So I had to learn that in business, you use what you have until you can get to where you want to get to. So that was the whole pretty much basis of being an entrepreneur and building entrepreneurship with beauty as well as aesthetics and hair loss all together.
Okay. That's very inspirational, because there are many single mothers out there who want to do something different and feel like they can't do it because they have all of these responsibilities and payments and this and that. And it's hard. But for you to say, hey, you used your gift to get that LLC built up, and then you just continue to build from there, that is a great way to start. And that's an inspiration to anyone out there who would like to do something similar or just start any type of business in
Any type of
general,
business.
right?
In general, and you just use your gifts. I mean, when I started Exclusive Hair Inc. On the medical aesthetic side, I was clueless. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. It was more trial and error. I'm a big risk taker. So at this point, I have 3 sons. They're looking up to me. I'm divorced. One of my sons, I was divorced. I'm divorced, and I had my oldest son, who's from a previous marriage. His father was deceased. So I was trying to figure out how to navigate life now as a single mom, raise my kids, be better for myself, as well as provide them an environment to help them grow. And I tell people all the time, SmartGraft saved my life. They gave me an opportunity, and I opened my mind and said, if this company is giving me a chance, I'm going to put everything I can put into it. And so everywhere I was going, when I was, working in the surgical aspect, there was clients who couldn't have surgery. And I would say, well, can I help them for free? Can I show them what to do? So that's when things began to build, and that's when how my company began to evolve. They started referring clients to me. If you're not a hair transplant client, go see Latiqua. She'll be able to help you. So the blog really was about taking your gifts, seeing a vision, and going through with it to your best ability.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually went to a hair transplant specialist just to see if I can get one back in the day when I was experiencing my hair loss. And I was one of those people who was not a candidate. But if I would have had someone to talk to and turn to, because back then we didn't have all this information, we didn't have all of this stuff on the internet, that would have helped me so much to figure out what to do next if someone would have been there to say, okay, here are some options, because I had no clue at all. All I knew was, okay, I guess I'll just keep wearing a wig or keep putting this weave in, and none of that was healthy for me or my hair.
Absolutely.
Right? Or my scalp, I should say, too. Now you mentioned exclusive ink, so let's get into that and let's talk about it, right? Now, you're serving clients dealing with medical hair loss, alopecia, and those seeking hair replacement solutions. So what sets your approach apart? And this is in regards to exclusive ink. So what sets your approach apart, and how do you create that safe, judgment-free space for people during this vulnerable time?
Okay, so what makes Exclusive different is it's a safe space business. It's not a place of, I didn't want my company to be about trying to book a sale. So I place everyone that I have in contact with, whether it's male or female, as if it's my mother or father. So I handle them with care. They speak to me directly, and I focus on what their needs are, what their pain points are, and I provide them a solution. And surgery is the last option. So it's now them coming into my company to figure out how I can pour oxygen into their beauty industry.
Now, okay, so that's one of your businesses. So you have, let me get it straight. We have exclusive ink. That's one. And then we have the Hair Tech Blueprints. That's another, right? And we've talked about the Hair Tech Blueprint. But I want to go back to the training for that program just a little bit. And can you talk about, because we have all different people who listen to the podcast. They may have hair loss, or they may be specialists who help people with hair loss. And they may need to have more information, whatever it may be. So let's talk about the training program and what that looks like. So for someone who's considering the Hair Tech Blueprint, what can they expect to learn? What kind of transformation should they have, whether they're students, clients, whatever it may be?
So the Hair Tech Blueprint is for beauty professionals as well as individuals who have no experience in the beauty industry that want to step into the lane of helping someone, whether it's surgical or non-surgical, or they want to start a beauty business, or they want to just learn how to go in business for themselves. So the Hair Tech Blueprint program is different avenues. It focuses on surgery, business, beauty, skincare products, and more of a holistic approach. The reason why I created that blueprint was because I wanted to make sure that I continue educating, empowering, and changing women's lives, and mainly Black women's lives, to let them know that life does not stop once your hair falls out. It actually begins. Because you see where your strength is. You see where there's so much power. There's so much. It opens so many doors for you to be able to walk in. I tell people all the time, when I went through hair loss, I wore every type of wig you can think of. I was trying to camouflage it, tie things on top of my head. And I remember seeing a doctor, and he said, "Do you know what beautiful is?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "No, you don't." He said, "Because you're gorgeous, whether you have hair or not." And that stuck with me. So for years, I kept working with the Hair Tech Blueprint, putting it down, working with it. Now I'm not ready. And then recently I just said, you know what? I'm going to focus on creating a space that women can learn, men can learn, or a teenager who wants to get into the beauty industry or learn about business or figure out. So it's there was no proper education component out there. And I think with my years of experience and all the things I've gone through, I wanted to create Hair Tech Blueprint training programs from non-surgical to surgical to products to business. Okay.
Now, you mentioned products, and we need to talk about your products.
Okay.
So we know you're an educator, we know you have the services. Let's talk about your products that you have created for your hair. It's a hair care line, correct?
Yes,
am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, what inspired you to create the product line, and like, how is it different from what's already on the market?
What prompted me to start my product line, this started way back in 2016. And I let fear stop me for many, many years. I started the product, I did the research, a lot of back and forth, the scientific methods. And then I would go to the beauty supply store, look at everyone's products, and then become discouraged because I'm seeing everyone's products. And then here I am at the counter and I'm buying everyone's products, and then I'm mixing them. And I'm like, hold up, you're taking these products and you're mixing them to create a different product. Why don't you focus on your product and focus on, scalp health, and look at more of a holistic approach where things help you? So one of my products, I have it here. It's on this cue card. And I created a natural rosemary shampoo, which is mint. And it basically invigorates the scalp and promotes healthy circulation, right? Okay. So I wanted to focus on things that circulate into the scalp and gut health. So what makes my products better, and I'm going to say better, what makes my product better, because you can use it on babies and you can use it on adults. You can use it for if you're having alopecia, scalp inflammation, and it actually stimulates your follicles to grow. And if you don't have any follicles, it also just gives you more of a stimulation and gets that blood circulation to make your scalp healthy.
Okay. So I like to set the expectations, because, when we losing our hair, we always think it's going to come back. And it's very hard for us to say, okay, it's not coming back. So everybody out there heard what she said. If you do not have hair follicles, okay, your hair is not coming back, but it's just stimulate your scalp. Okay.
Scalp.
That's where we have to get to that.
And I think that's too, because and one thing I wanted to create the community, because it was more, we're given false narrative, right? In the beauty industry, like your hair is going to come back. If there's no hair there, you've had a biopsy, you had a dermatologist tell you your hair is not going to come back. Only way it's come back unless God's going to create a miracle. But if it does not come back, I focus on teaching you how to focus on having a healthy scalp, right? Because
Yes.
it's what's in the inside. So we have the rosemary shampoo, we have the tea tree peppermint conditioner, we have a handmade hair growth scalp revival oil that I make, and it sits for 6 to 9 weeks. So the herbs can fermentate, and then I begin to package them up. And then we also have a hair roll-on temporal. But some of the products that are used, a lot of people see results, and some of the products that we use, they just actually help having great scalp health, and you can also use it on your skin. So everyone has to understand where their journey is for hair. And my company, I like to hold your hand and go through the whole journey of figuring out where do we start. It starts from the inside out, right? So even before you start the product, I ask people, have you had a biopsy? Have you seen a dermatologist? What does your gut health look like? What does your scalp look like? Do you have any blood work to see exactly where you're deficient at? And then we can move forward from there instead of just trying to put a Band-Aid on something that's not going to be properly taken care of.
Right, right. Now, do you have any products that tackle inflammation or reduce the inflammation?
Yes.
Okay. And what product would that be? So
That
everybody knows.
product is that is the Aura Beauty Botanical spray.
Spray. Okay. Okay. So if anybody's feeling a little irritation or burning it, you just spray it on and it cools it, just
It
calms
cools
it
it down
down.
and takes the inflammation down.
Okay. All right. Cool. Good to know, because I do get these questions.
Okay.
When I'm in my support groups, they're like, women with coily hair, what kind of conditioner or moisturizing conditioner can we use that, won't cause a reaction, all of those types of things. So that's why I like to make sure we point certain things out.
Yes. And I'm loving the fact how you're asking great questions, because there's some times that we're getting on platforms and we'll talk, and then some people will hear that somewhere along the line the wires are crossed, right? And it's like, hold up, no. If you have it where you've been diagnosed, your hair's not going to grow, or you have scar and alopecia, right? And it's just not coming back, right? What can we do to give you a journey for making sure that your scalp is healthy? Well, how can we make sure you keep your scalp uninflamed? What products that you should be using on your scalp? How is your gut health? What type of foods are you taking in that make sure that there's not going to flare up inflammation? So those ways help them versus saying, oh yeah, we can fix that. No, you have to be really honest, because we're hoping and wishing, And I tell people at the time, it took me a long time to wear my hair this way because I had to learn what worked. I don't wear it like this all the time. I mean, I didn't wear it like this all the time in the beginning because I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to embrace my hair loss. So my hair loss comes a lot around the edges and in the crown. I've learned how to safely bleach my hair with alopecia. Okay, so every Sunday I'm taking fresh aloe, I'm taking fresh rosemary, and I am putting it in a blender, and I'm making a scalp inside, and I'm putting it on my scalp, and it's sitting there for a couple hours, right? And then from there I'm taking cloves, fresh cloves, 3 to 4 cloves, 2 strips of rosemary. I'm putting it in distilled water, and I'm infusing it overnight. That's my scalp spray, as well as my drink that I'm drinking, because it helps with inflammation, it helps with my scalp. So I had to learn different ways, natural, holistic ways to regrow my hair. I was told my size wouldn't grow back. They did. Because my alopecia, I was able to catch it at a certain level to figure out where it was and then help it to regrow.
Okay. Now that's interesting, because you're talking about bleaching your hair, and I had this very question last night. What is a good hair coloring that women with alopecia or scarring alopecia or alopecia can use that would be okay for them? I didn't have an answer, because I'm like, I don't know.
Okay. Well, to be honest, I would say test first. What I've been using for years is L'Oreal 7-stage developer.
Okay.
You can buy that on Amazon, or you can buy it at Sally's Beauty Supply. What I will tell you is try a little area first and use the lowest developer. So with me, I've been bleaching my hair since 2015 up until now. And I use L'Oreal bleach developer, 7 stages. I use the highest now because I started low. I started at 20 volume developer. I can put 40 volume developer on and let it sit for 35, 40 minutes so it can get this particular color. But when my scalp is inflamed, I have to use 20. So I would say you really have to find the first the best one. I can send you one that I use out of the box that's very mild, and those two are
Okay.
safely. So those ones they can try off and then see how their scalp does. But I will say, make sure you have a leave-in deep conditioner, and I'm gonna stress this: make sure that they use a fresh aloe.
All right, so we're going to go into your community outreach because I've seen some pictures and things on Instagram and social media of you being out in the community. So let's talk about your outreach. And, I know that's part of your mission. So what kind of community work are you involved in? And why do you feel like it's so important to give back as a business owner?
I feel like it's, for one, my community is, I do a lot in the hair loss community. I do a lot for the youth. I work a lot with small business owners. And I also work with single moms and women
Okay.
who are trying to navigate life after raising their family. So I'm all over, I have my hands in knee deep in there. So when it comes to giving back, I feel like there are so many people that poured into me. I was a teen mom, so it was the community and the village that helped raise me and get me to where I am now as an adult. So I've always made it a point to tell myself, wherever God had planted me and placed my feet in business, I was always going to turn back around and put that baton in someone's hand and help them.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna go down just a little bit and look at this one question that I have,
Okay.
because I know that the non-surgical hair replacement industry is growing pretty rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
but it's mainstream, but it's not. Like, we see the commercials, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily like dive deep into it and all of that. And then when people, a lot of times when they hear about the cost of it, that automatically like shuts them down, right? So, non-surgical hair replacement industry, we know it's growing
Mm-hmm.
rapidly, but people don't have all of the knowledge they need to have about it. So, what do you wish more people or potential clients and beauty professionals understood about the field?
I wish people did understand more that it's not as difficult as it seems, and it's not that expensive. And in doing non-surgical repair replacement, insurance company, you can bill your insurance. You could be in network, you could be out of network. Um, the training is very inexpensive. The hair systems do not have to always cost that much. There's levels. You have your mid grade, you have your high grade.
Okay.
So I just feel like there's a misconception of hair replacement where it feels like people think it has to be so expensive, and it doesn't.
Okay. Now, one thing you mentioned, and I've talked about this before, in a previous like season of the podcast,
Okay.
how insurance will cover, or some insurance, let me say
Mm-hmm.
some, I'm not gonna say all, will cover your cranial prosthesis, because a lot of people do not know that at all, right? So I've also spoken to people who make wigs and they bill through insurance. Some people say, oh, they get 100% reimbursement or coverage. Some people say it depends. So
Mm-hmm.
what has been your experience as far as insurance is concerned, as far as getting some of this stuff covered under insurance?
It's the proper way of billing, it's knowing the proper ICD-9 codes. It's how you're having,
Okay.
everything is about contractual agreements in the presentation. So you have to make sure that you're presenting the documentations properly to the insurance company, right? And they're going to say
Okay.
no for being in network and out of network. Let's just say Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? Someone
Mm-hmm.
that's out of network, that means that person would have to be billed. The company would have to be billed, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
in network, you get the maximum. Let's just say that the hair system is, I'm just going to throw a number out there. The hair system is $2,000.
Okay.
The insurance company will cover that whole 2,000. But if they're not in network, the person will pay half and then be billed later. But
Okay.
you don't become discouraged just the fact of having a doctor write your script, and on that script is a prescription that says cranial prostheses for alopecia, on top of having a letter from that client stating how alopecia impacts their lifestyle, impacts their marriage, impacts their working environment, and that has to be submitted along with the documentation for them to give you the maximum for your hair system.
Okay. Got it. Got it. So that was a pretty clear explanation. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So if anybody out there who has ever tried and not been approved, or you want to try in the future, now you know exactly what you need to do, what your doctors need to provide, so that you have the highest potential of getting your cranial prosthesis covered by your insurance company. Okay. Now, let's talk about what's coming up for you, because I know you got a lot going on.
Yes. Actually,
So
they're texting me now, sending me over the a sample of the newsletter. So I'm
okay.
excited. So what's coming next for me is I'm an empty nester now, so I have nothing but time to pull out of my vault, ebooks and coaching and training. So I want to make sure that I'm being able to service every area of a woman's journey when it comes to hair, health, beauty, and wellness and lifestyle. So what's next is we're launching our digital diary, which is a monthly newsletter that will come out monthly and tell you all the new things of the hair products we're launching. My Latiqua Talks podcast, that will be coming up, I want to say, in February.
Okay.
Where it's a safe space. Just all new things of just having a space. But we're going to start with the newsletter where it comes up monthly, and the people that are in the community get first priority to see it, as well as the first discounts for courses, product services, and working with one-on-one with me, as well as we're launching our conference for 2026.
Okay. Now you mentioned your podcast.
Uh-huh.
So tell us a little bit more. What is the podcast going to be around? Which I know is around hair restoration, but like elaborate what type of guests will you have so people know what to look forward to?
I think the podcast is going to be more, I'll talk about hair, but it's going to be more like a tea talk. You know, how you grab a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and it's just pretty much more of a dialogue. We'll invite guests on. We'll also invite guests on who are clients who are figuring out what they want to do with hair. If someone who had a bad process of having a cranial prosthesis or whatever, or someone who just feels like they want to, have a dialogue of communicating of what the world looks like now as being a bald, beautiful queen.
Okay.
So it's pretty much lifestyle, health, holistic, and it's pretty much more of a conversational type.
Okay. Yes. I love those. I mean, I love to hear real stories. So, that's
that
all
part. Yes. So it's not scripted. It's real stories. We get down and dirty of talking about life. The reason why I wanted to start the podcast is I've been an empty nester for 2 years. The first year was very interesting because my life had revolved around my family. I didn't know what life looked like doing life for me, right? So the first year was like, oh my goodness. And now, second year, I'm like, oh, I kind of like this,
Yeah.
So I was able to figure out finding myself in the last year or so. So I wanted to do the podcast and really talk about the vulnerability of having a family and living life, creating life as a woman after raising your family. What does that look like? I didn't know where to begin. I can tell you how to run a business. I can tell you how to build a hair transplant from the ground up. I can tell you how to make your products. I can tell you all this, but I didn't know how to sit in my own company. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know how to sit still. I didn't know how to be quiet in the house and just relax because I was so used to running. So the podcast is really about me becoming more vulnerable, showing people behind the scenes what it looked like to become an empty nester, what it looked like of going back and figuring out the things that I had, I wanted to produce 2 and 3 years ago. Do I still have the passion for it?
Okay.
So also rebirthing my vault of my hair loss journey. I have books and products that I created that I want to now put into the community that they can have for free. That have been sitting there for 3 and 4 years. These things work. Go on over to the community, pick what works for you, and be blessed with it. So that's pretty much what the podcast is about. Talk with teas. I have the cups, the t-shirts, and then eventually launch a conference where it's more like a diamond dialogue, sister chat, and we get together. We just have a moment to connect and get to know each other.
Okay, that sounds really nice, really nice. Now tell everyone where they can find all of these things, like the conference, the newsletter, how they can get it, how they can see the podcast or listen to the podcast. Let us know.
So where you can find that is at the hairtechblueprint.com, www.hairtechblueprint.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. That newsletter comes out monthly. The first newsletter is going to drop on the 15th of this month. You'll be able to see all the updated information. That's where you'll be notified about our podcast, the conferences, as well as the products and services that are coming out in the trainings. We also open up the enrollment to have a scholarship, which is a scholarship that's $2,000 that goes towards any program that we have that's in the medical surgical field. And if you want to see me more day to day, you can find me on Instagram, Latiqua Williams, Latiqua_Williams. Sorry about that. Latiqua_Williams. And I have on Facebook, I'm Latiqua Williams on Facebook.
Okay. And we will have all of those links in the description of the podcast and the show notes. So don't worry if you didn't catch it. Make sure you look in the notes and you can get it from there. Okay. Now, Latiqua, thank you so much
You're
for all
welcome.
of the work you're doing out here. You guys, if you need her assistance, make sure you go check out her website, book a call, consultation, see how she can help you out. But thank you so much for
You're
being on
welcome.
our podcast today.
Thank you so
And
much.
before we leave, let me make sure the audience knows that the Bougie Baldie Show is now out. If you don't know about the Bougie Baldie Show, you should know if you've been listening to this podcast, but it's an extension of this podcast where we feature businesses that have been created out of their own women who've had hair loss, and they want to share services and products that they've created and developed to support other women with hair loss or people with hair loss in general. And we also have a panel discussion full of women who are baldies just like me, talking about our real experiences, real stories, giving advice, and just really giving a voice to you guys out there so that you know if you are experiencing hair loss, you're not alone, because other people have experienced this. We know what you're going through. And it's a way to just relate to other women who are out there, have hair loss, have embraced their hair loss, and have just decided to say, you know what? I'm done. I'm cutting it off. Now, the show isn't promoting that you be bald. We're promoting you do what you want to do. It's just the fact that we have all embraced it and decided just to say, hey, this is how we're going to love ourselves, and we decide to be bald. So make sure you check out the Bougie Baldie Show on zandratv.com. And if you are a business or someone who's interested in sponsoring a episode or a show, make sure you reach out to me and we can have a conversation. And that will be at limitlessmindsetcoach.com. We can sit on a call, talk about possible sponsorship opportunities, and go from there. All right, that's all we have for today's podcast. Thank you guys again for listening, and I will be back to you soon with the next episode. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening and watching the Bougie Baldie Podcast. I appreciate you as an audience member. Now, make sure you go and check out the Bougie Baldie TV show. You can watch it from any device, any smart device. All you have to do is go to zandratv.com and you will be able to pull up my show. It is under the lifestyle section on the menu if you don't see it on the front page. So make sure you go check it out. And if you did not get it, it's zandratv.com. Go ahead and click on the link in my show notes if you want to make it easier for yourself, and it'll take you directly there. I will speak to you on the next episode of the Bougie Baldie Podcast. Bye.
Thank you for watching the Bougie Baldie Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe